You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
And today on this Total Wellness Tuesday edition, we're going to be talking about calcium supplementation and how we've been told now for decades that it's really healthy for us, and actually we should be using it on a daily basis if we're over 40 or 50 years old. We're mainly told that because we want to increase our bone strength. We want to protect our bones from osteoporosis, from falling, from potentially breaking a hip, any of those things that might send us to the emergency room and actually cause us to then have to go into maybe a rehab facility, and then a lot of times we see from there people really start to go downhill. And of course we don't want that. But is using calcium as a supplement the best way to prevent that? Because we do want to prevent it, but let's take a look. So we know that using calcium will help with osteoporosis. It helps with muscle cramps. It helps with muscle pain. It helps with bone health, teeth health. It even helps some people with relaxation and insomnia. It helps better metabolize iron, increase the oxygen in red blood cells, and it does help with mental alertness, even allergies. So a lot of things calcium can be very, very important for. So we're not denying calcium's power. However, what we're looking at is that it's been starting to be shown more and more that calcium may cause an increase in heart attacks. So what we've seen is this. Now I'm talking about calcium supplementation. In a May 2012 study, a very large study, this wasn't a small study, 24,000 Europeans were analyzed, those who supplement with calcium and not. And the ones who used a calcium-based supplement were about twice as likely to have a heart attack. Now, this was really important data when it first came out. And of course, the media jumped all over it saying, swing one way, swing the other way. Calcium's now bad for us. Well, that's not the truth. Calcium is very, very important for us. However, we have to look at not all nutritional supplements are created the same. And the issue is that so many people, like the majority of people, are being recommended by their doctor to take calcium carbonate. Why are they taking calcium carbonate? Well, most doctors are just saying, well, just go to your local vitamin shop or, drugstore and pick up some calcium. And of course, a lot of those companies are just using the very cheapest form of calcium that they can get. And that's calcium carbonate. And why are they using calcium carbonate? Well, it's pretty simple. Calcium carbonate is easily the most abundant form. You're going to get it literally, you can get it from limestone. I mean, you can get it from stone, from shells, things like that. So when we're looking at that, it's obviously very cheap, and you can market it as a very potent form of calcium because you know what? That form, in terms of elemental calcium, like the highest concentration in limestone, so it's very high in calcium. But that doesn't mean that it's very absorbable. And that's what we have to look at. Like that's what we're talking about in functional medicine. What are we really talking about? We're talking about using nutritional supplements in their most bioavailable form. That means when you put them in your body actually gets to use them and not have them become toxic. So if you listen back to one of my previous episodes on folic acid, I was saying why it really may not be that good for you, even when you're pregnant. What you want to do is, yes, you need to get folate, but not from the folic acid version. You want to get it from 5-methyl tetrahydrofolate. So you can look at that. It just says on the back of the vitamin. You'll find it very, very simple, or from a natural folate-based source. So today what I'm going to give you is this. We know we need to take calcium, yes. But how should we take it, and what foods are also high in calcium as well? So let's stay away from the calcium carbonate form. Let's stay away from the straight calcium citrate. Let's stay away from calcium gluconate for the most part. We can have a little bit of that, but it's just not as high a quality. So what should we be looking at? Well, ideally we're looking for a calcium citrate malate mix, or just calcium malate is great. Calcium orotate is great. Calcium lactate can be a pretty good version as well. So those are all good versions of the calcium-based supplement. However, remember this. One of the reasons this is happening is because people are always looking for one-off supplements. And if you listen to this upcoming Friday review, you'll hear my thoughts on one-off supplements. But you should not be taking calcium without taking magnesium as well. I mean, that's really the big thing. In this study, the people were not taking magnesium. And why is that so important? Well, when calcium is taken just by itself, what happens is it can lead to greater concentrations of calcium actually in the arteries, which can lead to then atherosclerosis. And that's simply hardening of those arteries, okay? Because calcium actually helps, it does help repair tissues and those types of things, but what it can lead to is actually calcification or just hardening of those arteries. And when you have hardening of the arteries, when your body's trying to pump that blood through, it doesn't allow for the dilation, okay? So it doesn't allow those arteries to then expand and open. So if you're pushing a lot of blood through, but those arteries aren't expanding like they're supposed to, you can see how that you might have a blowout in those arteries. You might have a heart attack. So what I'm saying is this: magnesium is calcium's partner. One is going to constrict or kind of keep those arteries tight, and one's going to dilate. Very, very important. Magnesium and calcium should always be taken together. All right, so very straightforward when you look at that. Vitamin K is also very beneficial to take with calcium because vitamin K will really keep calcium out of the arteries, and especially we look at vitamin K2 and a few others as well, but this is really, really important because when people supplement with vitamin K2, you can see that there's multiple studies showing that people have at least a 50 to 57% reduction in dying from cardiovascular disease. Okay? So all of those things really, really important. Now let's make this just a whole lot simpler for you now. I'm going to give you some of the top foods in calcium that you can obviously get, not have to have any worry at all. And I'm going to give you some great nutritional supplements that you can also use for calcium supplementation. All right, so let's get to the foods first. Now, the foods highest in calcium, mainly the dark leafy greens, all right? So let's go through those kind of one by one. Now, besides just getting your vegetables in, you can also get calcium through dairy, which I'm not recommending necessarily because a lot of dairy foods they're cooked, they're going to be more acid-based, and they can actually leach and pull more calcium from your bones and tissues to have to deal with that acidity, because calcium is a great buffer of acidity because it is very alkaline. All right, so what else can you get it from? Well, you can also get it from small fish with actually the bones are still left in, like sardines, anchovies, items like that. It can be also high in, especially sardines, can be high in calcium. But let's talk about the easiest form. The easiest forms to get it are from collard greens, from that curly kale that you see at the supermarket, from the tops of greens like turnip greens. You can juice those, you can eat those, you can kind of cook them up in like a stir fry. Arugula, really high in calcium as well. Kale, regular kale. Spinach, typically we're cooking that to just try to break it down a little bit, get some of that calcium out. Watercress, mustard greens, broccoli rabe, beet greens, bok choy, okra. What else is in there? Spring onions, leeks, Swiss chard, one of my favorites, snap beans, endive, fennel, cabbage, butternut squash, broccoli. So really, there's a lot of great forms of calcium. And when you look at the top ones we named, those are between 150 and 250 milligrams of calcium just in right around about 3/4 to 1 cup cooked. Now, that's a pretty amazing amount because that's a really absorbable form as well. So besides almonds, besides dairy, besides sardines, the other things are just your dark leafy greens. And if you're eating that twice a day, just 2 cups a day, literally that's it, you're going to be getting 500 milligrams of calcium. So that's absolutely fantastic. Now, the other thing I'm recommending is this. Most people have no need to supplement with additional calcium because they can be getting it through their food, and then they're also taking a multivitamin, a methylated form, or just a good functional medicine multivitamin, or they're using their all-in-one shake powder every day, and you can buy whoever's you prefer. That's totally fine. And you're going to be getting about 250 to 300 milligrams or more of calcium just from that. So if you do need to supplement with more, that's completely fine as well. And we do use it in my practice all the time, so I don't want to say that we don't. For the people who need it, of course, that's what supplements are there for. And I'll just tell you the one that we use. One, if we're not just using magnesium, if we're actually using a CalMag product, then we're going to use a product like CalMag Max. And CalMag Max actually has all different versions of calcium and magnesium for allowing for a nice synergistic effect, very alkaline, and it's not a high dosage, which means that in about 1 or 2 capsules, you're getting about 140 milligrams of calcium and about 166 milligrams of magnesium. So you can simply take 2 capsules twice a day, and you really have all the additional magnesium and calcium that your body needs. All right, so hopefully that helps. You can get it from your all-in-one shake. We use our daily support shake every day for almost everyone in our practice, and it works phenomenally well. That's a great way to maintain your results too with your wellness and your weight loss. We use CalMag Max for additional calcium, magnesium, and then of course we're providing those specific foods. So if you're doing that, you're getting all the cofactors, and you're going to be good to go. You're going to be nice and healthy and not have to worry about all these calcium carbonates and the very cheap forms that are causing issues in people. Hopefully that gave you some great details on calcium supplementation, the right way to do it, and when you need to add additional calcium. Take care and have a great day.
I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stevencabral.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.